The cabin door slammed open with such force that the windows rattled. There stood Patricia Harrington, president of the Pine Ridge HOA. Her face was twisted in fury as she pointed an accusing finger at me and my dinner guests. She opened her mouth, ready to unleash what I assumed would be another one of her legendary tirades about noise violations and unauthorized gatherings. But then she saw him, the state attorney general, Daniel Morrison, sitting at my dinner table with a forkful of grilled salmon halfway to his mouth. Daniel slowly set down his fork, dabbed his lips with a napkin, and raised one eyebrow in that way only lawyers can. Patricia's mouth hung open, but no sound came out. For the first time in the 3 years I'd known her, she was completely speechless. Let me back up and explain how we got here. My name is Robert Sullivan, and I own a lakeside cabin that's been in my family for 4 generations. My great-grandfather built it with his own hands in 1922, decades before the Pine Ridge development even existed. The cabin sits on 5 acres of private land, completely outside any HOA jurisdiction. But try telling that to Patricia Harrington. Patricia moved to Pine Ridge about 5 years ago and immediately ran for HOA president. She won by promising to clean up the neighborhood and enforce standards. What she actually did was turn into the neighborhood tyrant. She measured grass height with a ruler, issued violation notices if garbage cans were visible from the street for more than 2 hours, and once fined a family $300 because their daughter's chalk drawings on their own driveway were deemed unsightly. About 6 months ago, my cabin became her latest obsession. Even though I wasn't part of her HOA, she decided my property was close enough to affect property values. She started with noise complaints, claiming she could hear my occasional weekend gatherings from half a mile away. Then came accusations about trash supposedly blowing onto HOA property, despite the thick forest between us. Last month, she escalated to threats about unregistered visitors and illegal short-term rentals. The truth was, I rarely had visitors. I'm a wildlife photographer who values solitude, but this particular weekend was special. My old college roommate, James, was in town and brought along a few friends from our university days for a small reunion dinner. One of them happened to be Daniel Morrison, the same Daniel who went from our college debate team captain to becoming the state attorney general. We kept things simple. 5 guys catching up over grilled salmon and craft beer on my deck. The only sounds were laughter and the occasional clink of bottles. Apparently, Patricia had been watching through her binoculars again. She saw the cars in my driveway and decided this was her moment to strike. I was just serving the main course when I heard her marching up the gravel driveway. I recognized the angry click of her heels immediately. Usually she at least knocked, more like pounded, but not this time. The door flew open, and Patricia burst into my dining room like she owned the place. She wore her usual uniform, pressed khakis, a Pine Ridge HOA polo shirt, and a clipboard clutched in her hand. Her face was red with righteous indignation as she launched into her rehearsed speech. "This is absolutely unacceptable," she declared, waving her clipboard at us. "I have documented evidence of multiple vehicles on this property, which constitutes an unauthorized gathering under HOA Regulation 7.3. Furthermore, I have reason to believe you're operating an illegal vacation rental, which violates county ordinance." She froze mid-sentence when she finally realized who was sitting at my table. James still had his beer halfway to his lips. Mark, another college friend, sat motionless, napkin in hand. And Daniel Morrison, the state attorney general, was studying Patricia with the same quiet intensity he probably used in court. "Ma'am," Daniel said evenly, his voice calm and authoritative, "I'm going to need you to explain why you just entered this gentleman's home without permission." Patricia's clipboard trembled slightly. Her eyes darted between Daniel's face and the official state seal on his jacket, draped over the chair beside him. "This is HOA business," she began. "I have the authority to—" "Do you have a warrant?" Daniel interrupted. "Are you a law enforcement officer?" "No, but I'm the HOA president, and this property is affecting our community standards," Patricia stammered, struggling to regain composure. Daniel stood up slowly, his 6'3" frame towering over Patricia's 5'4". "Ma'am, what's your full name?" Patricia Harrington." she answered, her voice suddenly much quieter. Ms. Harrington, Daniel said, are you aware that entering someone's home without permission constitutes criminal trespass in this state? It's a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a $5,000 fine. The color drained from Patricia's face. But I thought the HOA rules clearly state— The HOA rules don't supersede state law, Daniel replied patiently. And from what I understand, this property isn't even part of your HOA. Is that correct, Robert? I nodded, finally finding my voice. That's right. My property predates the Pine Ridge development by 60 years. I've told Ms. Harrington that multiple times. I see, Daniel said, turning back to Patricia. So you entered private property outside your jurisdiction, without permission, and interrupted a private dinner party. Ms. Harrington, do you realize you could be arrested right now? Patricia's hands shook so badly that she dropped her clipboard. Papers scattered across my hardwood floor, violation notices and photographs she'd taken of my property from the road. I was just trying to protect our community, she whispered. By breaking the law? Daniel asked. He pulled out his phone. Robert, I assume you have security cameras? Yes, I replied, pointing to the small camera in the corner of the room. They record 24/7 with audio. Excellent. Ms. Harrington, I suggest you leave immediately, and I would strongly advise you to consult with an attorney. Patricia bent down to gather her papers, her hands still trembling as she reached for the last violation notice. Daniel spoke again. Leave those. They're evidence now. She straightened up, looking like she might cry. Without another word, she turned and practically ran out of my cabin. We heard her heels clicking rapidly down the gravel path, then the slam of a car door and the spray of gravel as she sped away. The room was silent for a moment. Then James let out a low whistle. Well, that was something. Daniel sat back down and picked up his fork. Robert, I'm going to need a copy of that security footage, and I'd like to know more about her pattern of harassment. I spent the next hour showing Daniel the folder I'd kept of Patricia's escalating behavior, the dozens of unfounded complaint letters, the photos I'd caught her taking of my property, the threatening emails about legal action if I didn't comply with HOA rules that didn't apply to me. Daniel reviewed everything with a deepening frown. This goes beyond simple trespassing. This is a pattern of harassment and abuse of power. Has she done this to others? From what I hear, she's the terror of Pine Ridge, Mark chimed in. My cousin lives there and says people are afraid to put up holiday decorations without her pre-approval. Daniel made some notes on his phone. I'll have my office look into this. Robert, I'll need you to file a formal complaint. This kind of behavior from an HOA president is completely unacceptable. The rest of the dinner was subdued but pleasant. We tried to recapture the reunion mood, but Patricia's intrusion had cast a shadow over the evening. As my friends prepared to leave, Daniel pulled me aside. I'm sorry this happened during our reunion, he said, but I'm glad I was here to witness it. People like Patricia think a little bit of authority gives them the right to trample on others' rights. She's about to learn otherwise. 2 days later, Patricia received an official notice from the Attorney General's office. She was being investigated for criminal trespass, harassment, and abuse of authority. The notice also informed her that any further contact with me or my property would result in immediate arrest. The Pine Ridge HOA board called an emergency meeting that same day. I heard about it from my neighbor Tom, who lived just inside the HOA boundaries. According to him, it was chaos. 3 board members resigned on the spot, not wanting to be associated with potential criminal activity. Others demanded Patricia's immediate resignation. Patricia tried to defend herself, claiming she was protecting property values and maintaining standards. But when the board's lawyer explained the potential legal liability she'd exposed them to, the vote was unanimous. Patricia was removed as HOA president effective immediately, but that wasn't the end of it. The Attorney General's investigation uncovered numerous other instances of Patricia overstepping her authority. She'd entered at least 4 other properties without permission, always claiming HOA business. She'd also been issuing fines without proper board approval and pocketing some of the money. 3 weeks after bursting into my cabin, Patricia Harrington stood before a judge. She pled guilty to 1 count of criminal trespass and 2 counts of harassment. The judge, who happened to be a friend of Daniel's, was not lenient. "Ms. Harrington," the judge said sternly, "you used your position as HOA president to bully and harass your neighbors. You violated people's privacy and their property rights. This behavior is not just illegal, it's a fundamental violation of the trust placed in you by your community." Patricia stood at the defendant's table, no longer the imposing figure who terrorized Pine Ridge. She looked small and defeated in her conservative gray suit. "I hereby sentence you to 6 months in jail, suspended pending 2 years of probation," the judge continued. "You are also ordered to pay $5,000 in fines and complete 100 hours of community service. Furthermore, you are permanently barred from serving on any HOA board in this state." Patricia's lawyer had warned her this was coming, but hearing the words still hit her like a physical blow. Her knees buckled slightly, and she gripped the table for support. 6 months suspended sentence, $5,000 fine, and banned from HOA boards forever. Her reign of terror was officially over. "Do you understand these terms, Ms. Harrington?" the judge asked. "Yes, Your Honor," Patricia whispered, tears streaming down her